Hey, what's up? I'm Chris. I'm Thai. I'm a low-key history nerd, and I'm a bro. So welcome to Thai Bro History. Bro History Thailand? Thai History Bro. So I'm here to tell you about the history of Thailand, but that's not an easy task because history is the summation of all humankind's actions. A lot of things had to happen to make the world we live in today. Never does history just shit out a country complete with the language, culture, and people ready to be simply explained, and Thailand is no different. Its history is a complex combination of all those things evolving together over a really long-ass time. But here it goes. Our journey begins with the Mon people, who were the main ethnic group here 2,000 years ago. They came down from the hills of Myanmar and the Tibetan Plateau and posted up in the alluvial fan of major waterways across the Chao Phraya Basin. Starting around the 5th century Common Era, shit like trade and advancements in agriculture allowed these little population centers to link up and eventually become a big-ass network of city-states called mandala. And this first mandala of Mon city-states was called Dvaravati. You might know some of these old city-states as Nakhon Pathom, Sitep, Utong, and Lopburi, the site of the Great Monkey Battle, just to name a few. All these city-states were on the same shit culturally and artistically, but some states were sicker than others, with bigger moats and doper temples. But it's believed each state ruled itself independently for the most part. So during the Proto-Dvaravati period, proto is a fancy way to say before, some serious religious shifts began taking root. In the earliest days, they mainly practiced animism, which is the worship of sexy Japanese cartoons. Just kidding, it's worshiping nature and spirits and thinking trees have souls, and apparently this kind of stuff never gets old. Also during these first centuries, they were heavily influenced by Indians who had begun traveling to the region. They were basically our first tourists. And Indian religions like Hinduism and different types of Buddhism took root in the region and got spread like a pair of ass cheeks. But during the heyday of the Mon Dvaravati city-states in the 11th century, lots of monk dudes came through from Myanmar and Sri Lanka, where Theravada Buddhism had been going hot and heavy. And they began reforming the Mon people. Theravada Buddhism was a special sect. It was a schism of a schism of a schism of the first type of Buddhism. But despite its lineage, it was still like the OG school of Buddhism because it followed the practices of Buddha's first Sangha, or monk community. It was basically like a fraternity for monks, but instead of wasting their parents' money to get laid, they would just pray. They even used the same language and script as the Buddha, called Pali, which is the official language of Theravada Buddhism. And whenever you hear monks chanting, it's actually this ancient language, Pali, and they're chanting the same shit as Buddha's first disciples. So that's pretty sick, you know? Anyways, these Sri Lankan monk dudes show up and start converting the Mon people to Theravada Buddhism. So who was the Buddha? We're not gonna get into his whole philosophy. The official story of the Buddha is shrouded in myth and legend, but to oversimplify what happened, the Theravada monks were basically like, yo, you guys know the Buddha, right? Yeah, we know Buddha. We heard he's pretty sick. Yeah, well, we think we got like the closest version to what he was doing. And it would be really sick if you practiced our version, followed in Buddha's footsteps, and became teachers of his highest truths. And everyone was like, oh, teacher. And that's why Thai people love teachers, because Buddha was a teacher. So in a way, every drunk backpacker turned teacher should thank Buddha for this undeserved level of respect they get. So the Mon were like, yeah, fuck it, let's do it. And the Mon really jived with this Theravada Buddhism thing, especially the ruling class who came to see themselves as divine protectors of the Theravada teachings. By the 11th century, it was the dominant religion in all Dvaravati territories and defined society along with its unique artistic styles like bigger eyes and hand gestures. Around this time, the Mon city-states merged into two mandalas, ruling networks, the Lavo and the Suvarnabhumi, which is the correct pronunciation for the nice airport. Eventually, the ethnic Mon ruling class lost political dominance to the newly arrived Thais, Burmese Mon groups, and the Khmer Empire, who would come to absorb most of both mandalas into their own domain. But not before Dvaravati experienced a few centuries of united Buddhist expansion, dope art, architecture, and rich trade networks with the big dicks of the period, like China, India, and the Indonesian archipelago. It's worth noting that other Indianized states did exist in the greater region prior to and contemporaneously with Dvaravati, but none of them forged a cultural or religious identity here the way the Mon Dvaravati did, building temples, growing communities, encouraging pilgrimage, and really laying the groundwork for a Buddhist kingdom ultimately paving the foundations of organized society in Thailand. Although you could argue that society here still isn't really that organized. I'm Chris, and this was Thai Bro History. History Bro Thailand, Thai History Bro.